Hello everybody, it's the Silly Wiz again with another Battletech CCG stream or recording, call it what you want. And this time I'm continuing on with the Crusade tier list. And I'm going to have a focus or a look at least at the clan units available or what came out in this particular expansion and try and give you an idea about whether they are good, bad, or, as the phrase often goes, ugly. Right, let me just, because I seem to have a little bit of a issue with that Battle Cobra. Now, wrong key. Oh, I'm making a right mess of this, aren't I? So is it that one? I was hoping to get a bit more of that image across. Actually, hold on, let's do it the other way. There you go. Now I could just, oops, that should squeeze that. That doesn't squeeze that. Oops. Well, yeah, OBS doesn't like me today. That's a bit better. That'll do for today. So, clan tier lists. The clans got some reasonable mechs, and as ever, got some complete pieces of junk in Crusade. And that's better. Sorry, I'm being a little anal about that picture. I'm happy with that now. Yeah, they got some good stuff. One or two fundamentally very nice units, and as ever, some complete rubbish. Clan got 20 units, which I'm going to tier list here. When you go and look at the lovely Inner Sphere version, then what we'll find is that Inner Sphere, and I'm going to get the right numbers, so just bear with me while I find this. The good old Inner Sphere got 31 units, and on top of that, they received 5 vehicles. So they got 36 units in this expansion, and the clan get 20. So, as ever, the clan gets shafted. Okay. There were a few nice developments here. For example, we actually got some more Steel Viper units and a few more Jade Falcon units. And Smoke Jag gets its first elite, which, although I've covered it in the uniques, I'm going to put it in here because Paul Moon is a piece of battle armor as well. Okay. Nothing for Wolf, just a few generics, a few Vipers, oh, and a few Smoke Jag units, which are quite nice, as I said, not only the unique, but there's a few on top of that. So we're going to have a look at them in between, and let's start off with the Battle Cobra A. This is a 155 medium, 5 cost, 5A, 5T. Literally everything on this unit is 5, apart from the 1 armor and the overheat 2+2. It's quite an interesting unit in the fact that it actually can deal enough damage to kill a resource on its own. 5 with the overheat of 2 makes the magic 7, and to that extent it's actually quite potent. When you look at a lot of the other units that are around, they don't get to that level, or you're paying a lot more for things like crossbows or Grendel primes to kill resources. So as a resource killer, it's actually quite cheap. The downside of it is that it's a medium speed, and additionally, it doesn't actually survive that well, only having 1 armor and 5 structure. 6 kills it, which, 2 Owens can hunt this down, for example. If I just go and find our little Owens friends, give me a second, and I'll pull these out. If we look at our Owens friends, then you can trade one of your 2 Owens, 161 C3, so that becomes 3 damage on each. 2 of them make the magic 6, and they cost you 2 each. into a 5-cost Battle Cobra A. The only thing to say with this is that if you do that with something else, like a Fenris, for example, and trade it into the Battle Cobra A, you are going to kill something with your Battle Cobra A, whatever happens in most cases. So, yes, you might lose your Battle Cobra A, but it'll take somebody with it. And to that extent, it's actually quite good. If you can get this through, go and look at the Enkelbury versus Travis match where Enkelbury's playing Steel Viper with Viper's more unopposed forged mission orders. Getting this through with a base damage of 5 and then unopposing it for another 5 is very powerful. The other way that often happened before that was to overheat your wonderful Hunchback 2C, for example. Let's just have a quick look at that. Where's the Hunchback 2C? A 1/4/5/6 cost. Okay, it's got a huge alpha on it, but 1/4 makes it fragile and it costs 6, whereas your Battle Cobra a 1/5/5, arguably comparable in some respects, seems slightly cheaper, and it doesn't have a munitions buyout. So it's actually pretty decent. The trouble is that it's quite expensive, and for an expensive mech, it's quite frail. I can't quite put it in S tier, to be honest with you. It's got to be top of the Bs, depending on what I put in the the A tier. Sorry, not the S tier. What I put in the A tier, it might sneak in there. It might move up and down on the B tier, but I've got 19 more to do, so let me crack on with them accordingly. Next up is the Battle Cobra, and in this case, we have the B, which is its little baby brother, a 1/5/3. Huh, they seem to like the themes, don't they? Look, it's a 3-cost, 3 buyout, 3 damage mech, whereas the A was a 5-cost, 5 damage, 5 buyout. Talk about making them easy to remember. Okay, so it's a 1/5/3 and it's an overheat 3. Unfortunately, it's not an overheat 3+3, it's an overheat 3+2, but it has the added benefit of long range 2, because the thing supports 2 particle protection cannons. At 3 cost, it's quite nice. If you think about it, 3 cost, 3 damage, medium speed, that's not bad going. And the option to overheat for 2 more on top of that, okay, it hurts it quite drastically. Again, it's not a bad unit. It's just not stellar. And again, I'm going to have to stick this in here with its brother. Is it better? No. Is it better? And why is it not better? That overheat 3 hurts it too badly. Overheat 2 on here, it takes 1 structure. Overheating this on its own when it's through for 5 damage costs you 2 structure. It's a little harsher. So I don't think it's quite as good as the A in that respect. Okay, albeit giving the A downsides. Okay, next up we have the Prime variant, where they've deviated and completely forgot the number scheme and everything else and brought things back down to normal. It's a 1/5/4. All the Battle Cobras are 1 armor, 5 structure. It has an overheat of 1+1 and it has long range of 1. It's a 4-cost, 3 assembly, 2 tactics buyout. Be very interested to see how they worked all of those out. 4 damage for 4 cost, not bad. It's just at 4, you think about your Phantom B dashing, you think about some of the other units out there. Does it quite cut the mustard? Is it fast? No. Is it durable? 1/5, arguably not quite there. Is it as good as its other brothers? Maybe. You're thinking for 5 damage, i.e. the 4 and the overheat. Maybe you want to go back to the B because it's 1 cheaper. It can come out a turn earlier. So do you prefer the Prime to the B? Probably not. It's probably in there in the pretty decent, and I'm sure that if you've got the right tools in here, because these are all A and T, maybe that Steel Viper R&D team that gives you an extra deployment and extra draw each term, you could come out with quite a nice medium Battle Cobra swarmish type affair without too many problems, providing that your Steel Viper R&D team stick. Additionally, you can go and play Sacrifice the Battle Cobra, probably the B, and use your Vipers more to draw everything in to leave the others having a free run to the stockpile. It's quite effective, quite nice. Okay. Right, next up, Black Lanner D. I do love the raveny beak on the Black Lanners. I'm quite partial to a Black Lanner. Jade Falcon, fast mech at 1/7, very durable. And this little puppy kicks out 6 damage, which is very nice. And on top of that, it has AP, anti-personnel, so it does 1 additional damage to command cards, such as resources, meaning it's a resource killer, and all the stockpile as well. The big problem with this is the cost. At 7, it's very expensive, and it has assembly, munitions, and tactics buyouts of 3 each, which makes it horrendously expensive. 7 is probably over the threshold for most tournament standard decks. And I wouldn't expect this to be or make an appearance in a tournament deck. You might squeeze it out in draft. If it was one of the mechs that you were given in draft, you would think, if I can get that on the table, I've got a pretty good chance. It's pretty durable. It dishes out a lot of pain. Um, but if you think about it, yes, it does 7 damage alongside your Battle Cobra, but for 7 cost against your Battle Cobra A, which is a 1/5/5 overheat 2, and your Black Lanner is a 1/7/6, you're actually just paying 2 extra structure, 2 resources for 2 extra structure, and a munitions buyout for 1 extra base damage and AP. It does 7 in total. You got to be thinking, I wish I had a Battle Cobra A here. Okay, it's not as fast, but for 7 damage, you've got to think that the Black Lanner is a much more expensive way to go about it. Therefore, I'm going to drop it into the C tier, because there are much more cost-effective alternatives, and arguably some of the other faster mechs are better choices. Okay. Next up, we have the Crossbow A. And this is a little bit of departure from the normal mechs. It's a Steel Viper mech. It's a 287, which is pretty good value for 8 resources with a tactics buyout. I know Chad used these in his Invading Clans deck. 7, the magic number, kills most interferes. It's medium, so it can hunt slows. 7 raw damage to the stockpile is nothing to be sneezed at. 7 damage to a resource kills it. With tactics and only 1 buyout, you can easily build a deck around this. Maybe you go L&T with Merchant Cast and use that to pump out the resources to pump these out quite early. You could, if you wanted to go Diamond Wills with it, you could do that. There are many ways of dropping these onto the table. And at 7 damage, it's got to go into the A tier. Okay. Probably more for a Clan Big Mech deck. If you had 1 or 2 in a Steel Viper deck that's pumping stuff out with your R&D team, that's quite reasonable as well. Okay. So a number of ways you can go with that. Next is its younger brother, the T, which is a 286. It has a 1 less cost at 7 and a 3T buyout. It's not as good. Okay, it's 1 less cost, but it's 1 less damage. And in this game, that additional damage between 6 and 7 is a world of hurt. This can't kill a Fenris on its own, whereas the A variant, its bigger brother, can. It can't kill a resource on its own, normal resource that is, unless someone is playing with one of those multi-resources like Weapons Depot at 3/3 and stuff like that. So it's not as good. Chad's deck had these in as well, and the reason it was so good was that Mike Bodie ran Wolfhounds, which were a lot of 1/5s, which means that this 6 damage, 7 cost crossbow could actually kill them. And Chad's deck in 2000 was teched against that. And he didn't even make the finals, Chad's deck, until somebody dropped out and he got through and then got a good draw and then met Mike in the final, where this was the antithesis of it. So I'm not convinced that this crossbow B is anywhere near as good as its bigger brother. 6 damage is quite good, but for 7 cost, are you thinking maybe I can go with my? Why aren't I going with my? Oh, have I lost my black lana? I've lost my black lana. Hold on a minute while I find a black lana. Where are we? Where's the black lana? Black lana, where are we? It was the D, wasn't it? Yeah. Here are the other black lanas. Here's your A with ECM. Here's your, where's the other one? Here's the prime with 4 overheat 2+2. So for 7 cost on your crossbow, you've got 286 medium. Or do you think maybe I can go a 176 AP fast? And you might be tempted with the speed because of it. And again, it doesn't do 7 damage. So I'm sticking crossbow B in the C tier. And I'm probably going to leave it where it is, just behind the Lana. Whether I swap those or not, don't know at this point. Okay. Next up, we have the little toad-like Fire Falcon. 043 for 3 cost, and it overheats for 1. So it's a Jade Falcon only mech, and for all of those with thinking of Martha Pride, that keyword comes in quite nicely. There are a number of Fire Falcons. In fact, I think all the Fire Falcons have been done now with the Prime AC and whatever else at this point. And at 1-4, okay, against other Inner Sphere fasts, it's probably going to survive with 4 structure. They, a lot of the Inner Sphere fasts don't do 4 unless you either combine them or pull them together. And at 3 with 4 attack effectively for 3 cost, this is actually quite good. You could dash a prime and then this and then kill a resource the following turn because it does the 4 damage, which puts it in there. It's nice, it's fast, it covers. It's a little flimsy, potentially, against other clan decks. Is it A tier? No. Is it B tier? Probably. Is it better than the Battle Cobra? Arguably, because it's fast and dashes, you could get 4 out of it. 4 damage is quite important. It's definitely better than the other ones. I'll leave it there for the moment. Okay. Next up, we have its brother. We have the 0-4 2 cost, 1 tactics, 2 damage Fire Falcon D with Narc. Which, I'm sorry, but Narc on a fast mech is pretty poor. It's pretty useless. It's a nice starting mech at 2. Do you want to go a 1-4-2? Would you rather have the Fire Falcon? It's a variant brother. Would you rather have a 0-4-2 for 1 and forget the Narc? And I think Narc is not actually that useful. So would I rather have a 0-4-2 at 1 or a 0-4-2 Narc at 2? Then I'd take the 1 cost every time. Okay, yeah, you can use it as a fast screen against things like dashes and stuff like that in a missile deck, which are few and far between, but it's also Jade Falcon affiliated. And apart from the honking great Nightjaya D, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, there aren't actually that many great Jade Falcon missile boats that you can get on the table. It's okay. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to make a huge difference. There are other alternatives that are better. Do I put it in C? Maybe it's a bit better than Black Lana. Is it here? Maybe it's a C plus. Maybe it's a B minus. It's definitely behind the Battle Cobras. I'm going to drop it into C for the moment, and I'll play around with my curve in a minute. Okay. Next up, we have another Steel Viper mech, a 187 jump, overheat 1+1 Goshawk, which has an 8 cost, which, excuse me while I leave that in the right place, which is pretty crazy. It is very expensive for what it is. So let's look at an alternative. Let's look at the Smash Hawk, Black Hawk. Oops, I can't spell. The Black Hawk S, which is its kind of its competition, which is a 178 jump AP at 9 A and T. And the Goshawk is medium as well. It's a 187. So for 1 extra damage, you get a 1 cost. Right, so let me rephrase that. It's a 187 and the Black Hawk is a 178. So I get 1 extra damage and I get AP, so I can get 9 for 9. Whereas the Goshawk is 8 for 7 with an overheat 1+1. So you get 8 for 8. The big problem here is A, M, and T buyouts. If the M buyout had gone out of the way, then you might just see it played in the odd deck. But with the M buyout, it's way too expensive for what it does, and there are better alternatives. I'm going to drop that into D for the moment. Okie dokie. So next up, Grendel B, 165 and jump, and it's a smoke jag mech. Nice to see a smoke jag fast. Yeah, there was the odd Koshi, but they were reasonably generic. It's got a munitions buyout, which is a bit of a pain, but then if you think about smoke jag being synonymous with missiles, then having M on the table is a likelihood, and therefore actually it doesn't seem quite as bad. When you look at some of the other mechs with M buyouts, like the Little Jenna, the Peregrine, for example, and the Shadowcat Prime, which we'll see in a minute or two, then all of a sudden you might feel that this has a place in a deck, and maybe it does as fast cover. 1/6 makes it quite durable. 5 is quite a nice damage amount. Shame there isn't anything better on it than a jump, but let's face it, it's risky combat food effectively in that case. It's pretty decent. At 6, it's a bit expensive. If you pulled one of these in draft, you may well, like the Black Lana, put it in the deck. Is it better than the Lana? Probably. I think the fact that it's a 6 cost with 1 buyout instead of a 7 cost with 3 buyouts makes it a little more useful. Okay, we are dropping our armor, our structure and our damage slightly, but I think this has a possible place. I'm going to drop this in here. There, I think it's not quite in there with the Cobras, but it's definitely a bit better than some of the other ones down here. And we have the Grendel C, its smaller brother. Let me just tweak that. Some sort of wonderful thing. It's a bit better with that. Grendel C. Sorry, Lackey's resizing it and my window's going messy and horrible. Let's go with that for the moment. Grendel C, 3 cost, 2M, 2T, a 162 jump anti-missile, Alpha Strike. A bit unusual for a fast mech and a clan one. Obviously, you can get 3 damage out of it. It's nice and durable. It's got jump on it. The Alpha's a bit of a pain. If you sharpshooter it, you're only going to get to 5, which isn't great. But this 2 and a Grendel, the Grendel that we looked at, the B, which does 5, makes a resource kill. It's a fast blocker. It'll deal with the dasher. It's not going to make a big imprint onto the inner spheres as much, but it's potentially useful. And if you're running a smoke jag deck and you want an early mech on the table, then this is a possibility. When you look at the alternatives, if you look at something like the Dragonfly Prime, where are you? a 153 jump anti-missile, A, M, and T for 3. Then the Grendel's a little more durable, slightly less damage, but you have the Alpha option. Yeah, it's okay. I'd put it down here, probably somewhere with its brother. Which one of those is better? Probably the Grendel C is more useful. An earlier game mech, you might run them. Okay, and this is where it starts to get quite good. Next up in the clan fasts, we have Hankayu, or Hanky Prime as we call them, or in this case it's the Hanky C with the wonderful boxy shoulders. And this thing is a horrific laser boat with 6 medium lasers. It's a 044 for 4 costs with 3A and 2T. 4 cost for 4 damage. It's pretty damn good for a fast. When you look at the alternatives, you're looking at a 4 cost Dragonfly B where it overheats. The 4 cost Dragonfly C where you're relying on AP. You're looking at a Phantom A, which is a 5 cost, or a Fenris B, which is, where are we? Where's the Fenris B? A 5 cost. So to get 4 damage out of something so small, you're doing quite well. This is arguably 1 damage, sorry, 1 resource less than most of the alternatives. You know, so the other thing I like about it is that it actually overheats, and it overheats for an awful lot at 3+2, so you get 6 damage out of it, but it survives if it overheats on its own. So all of those weapons depots, oh, excuse me again, I'm misclicking all over the place. All of those weapons depots at 3/3s, it can kill one of those on its own and survive. And additionally, when you look at the phantoms, which are your fast clan stuff, here's your Phantom B, then it will kill a phantom. So on its own, it's actually not that bad. I'm not so sure I'd put 6 in a deck. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't put 6 in the deck. But I might have 1 or 2 in there as fast, high damage dealers. So they're actually quite useful at 4 cost. I'm going to drop that in there. Probably there. I think because it's fast. Okay, it doesn't do 7, but it's fast and you can get a lot out of it. Arguably, it's slightly better than Battle Cobra A. You might disagree, which totally understandable. Okie doke. Right, next up is, and I've lost it again, the Hanky. I'm not sure what's going on today. I'm clicking all over the place. Maybe my mouse has got dust in it. The Hankayu Prime, the Hanky Prime. And this is arguably the clan mech of this expansion for me. It's a 0/4, which doesn't make it overly great, but it does 3 damage for 3, 3A, 3T. You can get the theme again. It's like Battle Cobra B. But it has jump, so that's okay. But it has ECM. And that ECM on this unit makes a world of difference because it makes it a 143, but it gives ECM to everything else. And I know it's not thematic, but ECM preventing overheat damage helps an awful lot when we look at his brother. And it fills the 3 cost clan unit problem. And by that, when we look at the 3 cost clan units, we are looking at Fenris Prime. And Fenris Prime is a great unit. Don't get me wrong, it's a great unit. But it's got a buyout of 1A, 1M, 1T. And if you paid 4 for it, you don't feel that bad. Okay. If you look at its other version, which would be the Dragonfly Prime, which we've had a look at, a 153 jump with A, M, and T, they both have A, M, and T buyouts. Okay. This little Hankayu, sorry, got the Prime, has only got A and T buyouts, which means you can actually look at tweaking your resource curve as a clan player. You can go more A and more T than M, knowing that you're going to pull the M after this turn, which allows you to do an 8-7-6, for example, or a 9-7-5, or something like that, thinking about your war funds. So it can make the clan deck slightly more reliable. Okay. Additionally, the ECM is gold in this case. If you twin it up with some elemental points, all of a sudden everything's 1/4 and requires 5 damage to kill it, which is a lot rarer. 4 damage and 3 damage being more positive, or more prevalent. So it's likely that you'll end up with 6 damage against a 1/5, which means 1 damage will get put against something else and it'll bounce off the armor. It's not quite as durable as Fenris Prime, being effectively a 1/4, but it jumps. And if you think about the Dragonfly being the jumping alternative as 1/5/3, it's only got 1 less structure effectively. So for a munitions buyout. So this is probably the mech of the expansion for clan. It's got to be better than Crossbow A. Got to be. And arguably a lot of its compatriots. Okay. Next up, we have what looks like an Olympic weightlifter in the Kraken 2 Bane. It's a monstrous 4/11, 6 damage Alpha Strike 4 unit that has a cost of 10 with buyouts of 4 assembly, 4 logistics, and 4 munitions, and is Jade Falcon only. Okay. It's got horrendous buyouts. It requires 3 of the less well, assembly's okay, munitions is passable, logistics isn't so great. You've got to build a deck around those 3 in order to get this into play. And it alpha strikes and it's slow. And yes, if you get one on the table, it will be hard to deal with. But in the majority of cases, by the time you get this on the table, the game is lost. This is not going to affect the game at all. And for some reason, I seem to be missing it from my image list. So I'll go and find one in another minute. But I'll tell you now, I would put that in the D tier. It's trash. Don't play with it. Along the same themes, we have a very pinkish Naga B with a 2 armor 5 structure, which makes it very weak, 7 damage only. 6 attack, which is quite nice. Overheat 3+3, which is nice. Again, you can get 9 out of this. And the ability of the Arrow 4, which is tap, choose a mech or target and deal 2 damage to it. But in reality, if you've got a potential 9 damage mech on the table, why am I tapping it to do 2 damage to something else? The only time you can do that, and this is legal, is you build your Naga, you go to your missions phase and attack with something else. You can tap your Naga straight away. And that's the only time you're going to use this, because 9 damage elsewhere is going to be a lot more influential on the board than just tapping it for 2 in the majority of the cases. It's a 9 cost. It's got 2A, 2L, 2M buyouts. I wouldn't even think of playing this in draft. It's way too expensive. It's way too fragile. Okay, yes, something will kill it, but you can easily pick it off with a couple of cheap fast mechs. Your Dasher Prime and Fire Falcon B will pick that off for 2, 5, and you've invested 9 plus buyouts into this, and it doesn't even get to attack. It seems like a pretty rough deal. Okay. Next up, we have the Nightjaya B. Arguably the epitome of missile mechs up to this point, because it has Missile 6, which is pretty crazy because most of the mechs up to this point didn't have much above Missile 3. There were a few with 4, but nothing major. So having Missile 6 at this point was pretty scary. It's 2 armor, 9 structure, which makes it reasonably durable. Even at 15 cost, you would maybe hope for a bit more on that. But hey ho. And it has 3 damage associated with it, which means you can retrofit missile rack the crap out of it if you really, really want to. It also overheats for an additional 5 attack, meaning that you can get 8 damage out of this plus your 6 missiles. That's an awful lot of pain in the right circumstances. If you use this along with your little Narky, sorry, Fire Falcon, and you've got a targeting ace on it, this is going to hurt. The big problem with this is it costs 15 and you have to get that out somehow. And the 2 ways of doing it are merchant cast, which is L, and munitions. And if you're going to run that with your Fire Falcons, you need T for this Fire Falcon. Or if you look at an alternative, you could try and Diamond Wills it and put out some fast blockers in the form of our Grendel friends, which means you running munitions and tactics. Munitions and tactics deck with a targeting ace, and this being 15, maybe Diamond Wills, maybe you go L, M, and T with Merchant Cast. The problem is the synergy with the early game mechs is a problem. But if you can get this on the table, it's actually going to be painful. And it's arguably one of the mechs that you actually stand a chance to get on the table because there aren't any L, M, or A buyouts on it, unlike the Naga and the Kraken. So it's better than them. It's never going to win a game on its own because it's never going to turn up in time. You have to find a mechanism to get this on the board and get this to stay. Because let's face it, it's going to be food. As soon as this hits the table and your opponent sees it, they're going to go for it because they know that 6 missiles and 8 damage is arguably enough to end the game. 6 missiles at 3 is 18 damage. Plus another 8. It's 26 damage. That could be game over. So anybody worth the salt is not going to let this thing anywhere near their stockpile. You know, they're going to put a large springy net above there so all the missiles get caught in it and flung back at it. So it's actually potentially quite good if you can get it on the table, and that's the problem. I think I've got to put it in B. I don't think it's as good effectively at 15 for, where are we? 15 resources compared to a cheaper Battle Cobras and whatever else. But it's definitely playable, and if you can get one into play, it could win you the game. You've just got to build a deck around it, and therefore you can't call it A tier or S tier if you've got to build a deck around it. Next up, we have Nightgyre Prime, and this is a little underrated as well. I find it's a 2/9/10 with an overheat 1, a jump, and a couple of long ranges. And at 12 cost for A 4T, it seems expensive. But if you're running an A and T deck, a la Steel Viper, for example, and you've got a couple of double overtimes in there, you can actually get this on the board quite early. At 2/9, it's reasonably durable. At 10 damage, that's going to be painful. If you combine it with the right missions, that's going to be even worse because it's going to untap or it's going to double its damage. And 12 means you need 6 on the table with a double overtime. But it's the buyouts A and T synergize a lot more with the kind of units that you want to be running in order to screen for it beforehand. So it has potential is probably where I would put this. You're not going to run 6 in a deck. You might run 4 double overtimes and 4 of these, for example, meaning that you can get to draw 1 and do the combo. And with one of those on the field, that's probably enough, potentially enough to swing the tide of a battle. Your opponent either has to chump block it or they've got to invest a lot of damage into it. And at 10 damage coming out of it, possibly 11 with the overheat, it's probably going to take a couple of units with it. Whether they're worth 12 resources is another situational thing. I would put it over here. I would pop it probably better than our Black Lana because of the numbers involved. You think you're doing another 5 damage effectively for another 5 resources, and you've got a 2-9 slow versus a 1-7 fast. Probably there. Better damage wise than our crossbow. So yeah, I think somewhere in there would work. Paul Moon is up next, and I've done Paul Moon before. He's arguably the best bang for buck unit in the entire game, having 3 damage with AP and getting +1 ability. And if you combine him with um, other elementals, he gives the other elementals +1, which is pretty crazy. He's got a tactics buyout, which is quite nice. He's smoke jag only. And I often felt, and I never saw it, but if you remember, or there was the good old Dragonfly Elemental deck where you ran Dasher Prime and then a number of Dragonflies alongside Elementals and ran an A, L, and because everything jumped, you ran a minority T of tactics deck. Well, if you think about your Grendels with the C buyout and the B buyout, sorry, the B and the C with M buyouts here, your little Jenna Prime with the buyout, arguably the next card, the Shadowcat Prime, having another M buyout on it, and maybe something like a Peregrine, you can get an awful lot of damage awfully quickly out of that. And I often felt there was the potential for a kind of LMT elementally style deck to come out of Smoke Jag, and utilizing Paul Moon in his tight blue shell suit to go forward with that. Never really saw it, but you know, maybe it was something to come out there. Next up, we have the Shadowcat Prime, a 1/6/4, which is pretty solid. 4 damage from it. Jump, nice. Long range 1, nice. 4 with 3M buyout. You can see that there's a little bit of theme here, potentially. A lot of the units are A and T, a lot of the M buyouts are M only. As I've said, Little Jenna 2C, Peregrine, Hunchback. There are a number of other M based only units around here. It's actually pretty good value. If you drew that in draft, you'd be quite happy. 4 damage for 4 cost and a medium speed with a jump and a 1/6. It'll stand up to a lot of inner spheres stuff and block it and dish out more than it's worth. I quite like it. I think it's got to be into the B tier. You know, is it better than the Battle Cobra Prime 1/6/4 versus 1/5/4 Overheat 1 A&T versus M cost? You might view it differently. You could tweak those. I think if I'm playing an M deck, this is one of the mechs I will go and look at, the Shadowcat Prime, because of that flexibility in there. Okay, next up, Turkey Prime, Takina Prime in itself, 3/11/10, Missile 2, Overheat 1/1, Jump, Long Range 2, 11 cost, 4A, 4L, 4M, another great, honking great thing. And if I'm going to run A, L, and M, am I going to put this on the table or am I going to look at other things itself? To be honest, it's down here. Is it better than the Naga? I'm going to put it better than the Naga because the Naga's only 2/6 and this turkey is 3/11. It overheats for another 1, which means it can kill a resource. And Missile 2's okay. It's better than the Naga. It's slow. It costs a bucket. And as I've often said, by the time it's on the table, the game's over. So is it going to actually win you a match or have any influence for you? Probably not, is my response to that. So yeah. And finally, the other Steel Viper mech, The Viper itself, the Black Python, 297, overheat 2+3, jump long range 1. It's medium, which is quite nice, but it's an 11 cost and it's got A, M, and T buyouts. It's an awful lot of resource for a medium. Where does it fit? It's a 297. So where does that compare to Mad Cat B, which is a 297? Okay, 9, 1A, 1M. This is 11, 4A, 4M, 4T for a long range, an overheat, and a jump. So you're paying 2 extra with horrendous buyouts. I think if I was going to do it, I'd play one Mad Cat B over this every time, to be honest. Even if it is Steel Viper, it's in the jank. It's probably better than our Turkey. Is it better than our Goshawk? Steel Viper 178 for 8 versus 11. I think you probably stand more chance of getting the Goshawk on the table out of all of those. So the mech I missed was the Kraken 2 Bane, which on this one I'd probably stick in 11. Kraken 2, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? 4, 11, 6 for 10. 3, 11, 6 for 11, but you've got missiles and overheats. I think I would stick it after the Turkey, but before the Naga. In those realms, so it will go down here, and there you go. Would I change anything? Probably not. I'm reasonably happy with where I've put things. Certainly, Paul Moon is as I said, best bang card for the buck. The trouble is, it's Smoke Jag. Hanky Prime is by far the most useful unit in this entire expansion. It could probably fit into the majority of clan decks, whether they're A and T or AM and T, whether they're jumpers, whether they're not jumpers. If you look at the number of things that go along, you could drop it into a Dash Wolf deck instead of Fenris Prime if you wanted. You could put it into the Dragonfly Elemental deck if you wanted because it's A and T. You can use it in a number of cases. Crossbow A is just pure value for money and a resource killer. And then the others are all pretty decent. So the clan, they got a couple of good units. One which I would say is very good and usable in most cases. You could make a case for that hanky to go into the S tier. You could really make that case. I think if it was a 0.5 with ECM and it became a 1.53 at that point, you would put it in S tier. I think I'm going to leave it in A. It's better than the crossbow. It's more utilized or available to more decks than that. Just that little bit short. Maybe they got the balancing right. Maybe I'm wishful thinking. Maybe I've played with too many of these and they've lost and died, even with the ECM and stuff. Who's to say? And this is my opinion. There are other mechs on here that I'm sure a lot of people like, as opposed to a lot of people hate. And you'll probably have your favourite mech from whether it's the card game or board game or whatever else. I'm looking at it purely on a playability in the card game point of view, and that's how I would rank this lot. So anyway, that's me for today. I'm done. I'm going to try and do the Inner Sphere list later this week. Maybe tomorrow, depends, or possibly Thursday. We'll see. I don't know. Having said that, and you know what I'm like, the chances are that it'll be Wednesday. It won't be Friday, I'll tell you that now. But my plan is to get all of those done and out of the way, and therefore I can finish the Crusade tier list, draw a line under it, and then stick it as a playlist on YouTube, and you can go through the whole lot in order if you really want to, whether you agree with them or not. Purely down to you. If you want me to go back and look at a specific card, then please let me know. If you want me to do other cards, happy to do that. I thought on the card review I might have a look at Commander's Edition at some point. Maybe do the cards that changed, maybe do the high command cards. But as there's a sealed tournament going on using Commander's Edition base boxes, which I researched and put together and kind of put into place. I feel duty bound to play in it. And I have the time potentially to play in it because it's going through all of April and March, if I remember rightly. Then I have less commitments and I can afford the time to play. Then I am fully intending to play in that for a bit of fun and get my eye back in, so to speak. I haven't played for a little while, even if I do know all the theory and stuff like that. So it'd be nice to play again. And then after that, I'm running, as I said, a Batchel tournament, the wonderful Battle of Turkeyid, or whatever it is that Mitch told me how to say, and I can't forget. So it's baby turkey, turkey a kid, or whatever else it is, or turkey aid, because we drink lemonade. Why don't we drink turkey aid? Or all the turkeys are dying, they need Red Cross parcels and whatever else. Um, but that I'm going to run that after the potential Commanders Edition tournament, and it will be a Comstar deck which I've designed and I'm just getting checked over. And anyone that participates will be able to bring a clan deck of their choosing to represent the battle as it properly happened. Yes, the Smoke Jags turned up and made a bit of a cock up of it and got absolutely wiped off the face of the planet. Fair enough. The Ghost Bears turned up and had a bit of a sticky time and agreed a draw. Steel Vipers did okay and the Jade Falcons did all right, I think, but most of those ended up as draws as well. And the Wolfies just overplayed their hand and obliterated most things and slaughtered stuff and generally won. But that's down to you. You can play any of those, your choice. But it is a Batchel style tournament, so this is down to optimizing your deck to beat the Comstar deck that I provide, which your opponent is allowed to customize up to 25% of. So I provide a 45 card deck. They are allowed to add the remaining 15 cards and a sideboard. And your clan deck, whichever clan that you choose, has to beat that. Okay. I'll do more on that in April. As I said, I'm going to do an explanation. I'm going to walk through the Batchel, how it works, how the draws are done, how you point up the values of your deck and work out who plays what. And then basically it's a round robin tournament with who plays clan and who plays Inner Sphere, and in this case Comstar. So that's on the radar. So there's loads of stuff coming over the next month or two. As I said, maybe I'll get around to doing some Commander's Edition next. But if there's something that you want me to do or have a look at or play around with, then please let me know. If you like what you see, hit the follow button here on Twitch, but I also export these into YouTube, and you subscribe to that as well, so that when I add something, you get a little message to tell you that you can watch it. As ever, most of it isn't live because, well, I live in the UK and I do this probably, and most of my viewers are in America and or Canada even. Don't forget the Canadians. Early morning or whatever over there. So, and then there's a few other technical upgrades going on during in the house. Yes, faster network and other stuff. Which, although I haven't really dropped any frames streaming, my connection's pretty solid. Then this will make it even better and even more reliable, and maybe I'll play around and do a few more fancy things. So that's the plan going forward. Bit more this week, and then back into April, and up to that point, I wish you all well and hope you've enjoyed today's content. And I will hopefully see you soon. Take care of yourselves. It's a big bad world out there.